So, have you ever caught yourself staring at photos of those crystal clear, turquoise waters and totally enchanting waterfalls of Siquijor and thought, man, I just have to go there? But then you start looking into the inter-island logistics and suddenly you're just completely overwhelmed? Well, you are definitely not alone in that. Siquijor, or as it's often called, the mystical island of fire, has historically been kind of tricky to reach. We're talking a confusing patchwork of flights, super long bus rides, and multi-leg ferry crossings. But hey, the landscape of Philippine travel is changing incredibly fast, and getting there in 2026, it's a whole new ballgame. So how exactly do you navigate all this without losing your mind or, wasting an entire day of your hard-earned vacation? Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, our main goal is to completely demystify the journey to Siquijor for you. We're going to break down the travel logistics into clear, chronological steps, and we'll be looking at the absolute latest routes, the schedules, and even some essential local laws that you absolutely need to be aware of for 2026. By the end of this Explainer, you're going to have a rock-solid plan to reach this beautiful island super efficiently, so you can just focus on the adventure instead of stressing over the transit. Here's our travel roadmap for today's Explainer. First, airport to Cebu Pier 1. Second, navigating the ferry routes. Third, new direct flight options. And finally, essential Siquijor entry rules.
Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, Airport to Cebu Pier 1.
For the vast majority of international and domestic travelers, your journey to Siquijor is going to kick off right at Mactan Cebu International Airport. But here's the thing. Landing in Cebu is literally just step one. Your actual gateway to the islands is Cebu Pier 1, which sits about 13 to 15 kilometers away from the airport. When you're looking at how to bridge that gap, you really have to view your options through a dual lens of time and money. If you value convenience, especially if you're lugging around heavy bags or traveling with a big group, an app like Grab or the official airport taxis are absolutely your best bet. This direct route usually runs about 300 to 450 pesos and takes somewhere between 30 to 50 minutes. Oh, here's a pro tip for you. If the traffic looks heavy, you can actually ask your driver to take the CCLX toll bridge. It completely bypasses those older, super congested bridges into Cebu City. Now, it'll cost you a tiny bit more since you shoulder the toll, but trust me, it is a massive time saver. On the flip side, if you're traveling light and watching every single peso, there's a budget route that costs less than half the price. It does extend your travel time to about an hour and a half, though. Let's break down the exact steps for that budget-friendly route, because honestly, it is incredibly efficient if you know what to do. Step 1. Right outside the airport arrivals, you're going to look for the My Bus terminal. For a flat fare of literally just 50 pesos, this city bus takes you directly to the SM City Cebu Mall. They run every 20 minutes or so throughout the day, so you're never waiting long. Then, step 2. Once you're at the mall, simply hail a quick taxi or book a Grab for that final 10 to 15-minute hop over to Pier 1. That'll cost you somewhere between 100 and 150 pesos. So yes, it's a two-stage trip, but it easily keeps your total transfer costs under 200 pesos. That's a huge win for your travel budget. All right, let's see how this builds into the broader journey across the sea.
Section 2, Navigating the ferry routes.
Once you've successfully made it to Cebu Pier 1, the next major hurdle is the ocean itself. Navigating the ferry routes in the Central Visayas definitely requires a bit of strategy. There are multiple operators, vessel types, and departure ports to consider. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that if you're departing directly from Cebu via the fast craft operated by OceanJet, notice what's missing? There is actually no single direct fast ferry to Siquijor. Nope. You are required to book two separate legs. Leg 1 takes you from Cebu to Tagbilaran Port in Bohol, which is about a 2-hour ride. Then, Leg 2 takes you from Bohol onward to Siquijor, which is another hour and a half. And because you're transferring, travel experts highly recommend leaving a 60 to 90-minute buffer window in Bohol just to be safe. So if you catch a morning ferry from Cebu by noon, you can comfortably connect to the mid-afternoon departure to Siquijor. The total cost for this? Roughly 1,700 to 2,100 pesos one way. But hey, what if you aren't actually leaving from Cebu City? Well, a highly recommended alternate departure point is the coastal city of Dumaguete. This route is absolutely fantastic if you've been exploring southern Cebu first, places like the waterfalls of Oslo or the incredible diving in Mobile. From down there, you can super easily cross right over to Dumaguete. And honestly, Dumaguete is practically Siquijor's next-door neighbor. It offers the most flexible, frequent daily departures straight across the Bohol Sea.
Once you're in Dumaguete, the transit becomes so much simpler, and you basically have two primary options depending on your priorities. If you're all about speed, OceanJet offers a premium fast craft that zips across the water in just 40 minutes for 455 pesos. It drops you right at the main Siquijor port near San Juan, which is the popular tourist area. But if you've got a little more time on your hands and want to save some cash, operators like Montenegro Lines and Light Ferries offer what's called RoRo, or roll-on/roll-off ferries. It takes a bit longer, about an hour and a half, but the fares start at just 230 pesos. Both are really fantastic options. It simply comes down to whether you prioritize a quick 40-minute dash or a more budget-friendly, relaxed cruise.
Moving on to Section 3, New Direct Flight Options.
Okay, so we've covered the land and we've covered the sea. But now it's time to talk about the sky. For the speed-seeking traveler, 2026 brings an absolute game-changer that completely rewrites how we access this island. 55 minutes, that is literally all it takes now. Travel time from Cebu to Siquijor has been massively slashed to under an hour. No sitting in traffic to Pier 1, no booking two separate ferry legs, no stressing over buffer times in Bohol.
And this brilliantly illustrates the incredible cost versus time benefit of the newly launched Sunlight Air direct flights. Operating right out of Mactan Cebu International Airport, these ATR-72 turboprop aircraft fly directly to Siquijor's airport 3 times a week, specifically on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And honestly, the most astonishing part? The base fares start at just 488 pesos one way. Oh, and that already includes a 7-kilogram carry-on allowance. When you actually sit down and weigh the price of a direct flight against the combined costs of taxis, terminal fees, and multi-leg ferry tickets, skipping the ferry headaches entirely isn't just a massive time saver, it can actually be incredibly cost-effective too.
Bringing us to Section 4, Essential Siquijor Entry Rules.
All right, so you've mapped out your transit, your bags are packed, and you've got your tickets ready to go. But before you step off that plane or ferry, you really need to know that Siquijor isn't just another laid-back beach destination. It actually has strictly enforced local laws. The absolute most critical thing you need to know is that Siquijor operates under a strict zero-waste policy. Now, this is not just a gentle suggestion or some cute marketing campaign. It is a strictly enforced provincial law that prohibits the entry and use of single-use plastics in order to protect the island's fragile ecosystems. Seriously, do not take this lightly. Port security and ferry operators are well known to actively confiscate prohibited items right out of tourists' bags before they even let you into the province.
So what exactly does this mean for your packing list? Well, you absolutely must leave behind any plastic bags, plastic straws, styrofoam containers, and disposable utensils. Instead, you're expected to pack and actually use reusable water bottles and cloth eco bags. Keep in mind, a lot of local stores simply will not provide you with a bag, so you really have to come prepared. Beyond the environmental rules, Siquijor is a place deeply rooted in tradition. When you're visiting the island's historic and frankly beautiful Catholic churches, there is a strict dress code. You have to cover your shoulders and knees. A super easy workaround for this is just carrying a light sarong in your day pack. And finally, just be completely aware that smoking and vaping are strictly prohibited on all beaches and in public areas.
So the crucial point is summarized perfectly by this quote from our sources. Following these guidelines isn't just compliance, it's being a responsible traveler. Siquijor's regulations really aren't there just to make your vacation difficult. They exist entirely to preserve those pristine beaches, the healthy coral reefs, and the totally unique cultural heritage that makes the island so incredibly special in the first place. By respecting these environmental and cultural rules, you are directly helping to preserve Siquijor's mystical charm for years to come.
You now have the complete roadmap. You know how to navigate the traffic out of Cebu Airport. You totally understand the nuances of the Bohol Sea ferry transfers. You're in on the secret of the 55-minute Sunlight Air flight, and you are fully prepped on the island's zero waste laws. So I guess the only question left is, have you packed your reusable bottle and booked your 2026 adventure to the Island of Fire? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Start planning, travel responsibly, and I will see you in the next one.